All right, so that we can be respectful of everybody's time and make sure that we're able to make the most out of the time and the experience that we have together, let's go ahead and get started. So first, I'm just going to do a quick introduction and also thank the folks who helped make this possible. And then after that, I will be doing some introductions and just going over what's going to happen for the evening. But first, my name is Jules Purnell. I am the Associate Director of Prevention Education. My pronouns are they, them. I am so excited to bring this event to campus. This is part of a continuum of conversations that we're going to continue to have on our campus about what harm is, how we can address it, and ways that we can think creatively about working together to solve these problems in ways that some of the other structures and institutions in our world are not able to do. So in order to set us off on the right plane, I want to first do a land acknowledgement that to me is also part of addressing harm. I want to acknowledge the original stewards of the land on which we learn. So I wish to name that our campus is on Lenni Lenape land. And I pulled this information from the official website of the Lenni Lenape people. So if you're interested in having that information, I can also forward that along. I think it's good to know the name of the folks, but it's also good to know a bit more about who they are. So what their site says is that the peace-loving Lenni Lenape are called the grandfathers or ancient ones by many other tribes and are considered to be among the most ancient of the northeastern nations, spawning many of the tribes along the northeastern seaboard. We're known as warriors and diplomats, often keeping the peace and mediating disputes between our neighboring native nations, and we're admired by even European colonists for our hospitality and mediation skills. And that feels really important to me, especially because a lot of restorative, transformative, and generative justice practices come from these indigenous communities. When it comes to sexual violence and it comes to intimate partner violence, because we're a college campus and because we receive federal funding, that oftentimes goes to our Title IX office, and it oftentimes goes to sometimes our Dean of Students office or our campus safety. And one thing that I've learned about also being a part of this because of my role of helping to address sexual harm on campus is that it can be somewhat uneven. And there's often not a culture of really deeply understanding what restorative and transformative justice is. So right now, it kind of depends on the nature of the harm. But I think that one of the unfortunate things is we don't often have the conversation about harm. It's often policy violation.
Right.
So it's often like the difference between just and unjust law. Like we have the law of the land, we have Title IX, which, per the last presidential administration, some stuff happened, I'll put it that way. But so there's a lot of ways in which I think we're honestly still grappling with that. We're still trying to figure that out. And so one thing that I hope by having you come and by engaging some of our staff in a 32-hour restorative justice, training last summer, I'm hoping that we can shift conversations into its harm and how do we respond to it, not so much policy violation. Per Title IX, we have to offer certain things. So they have to do an online training that gives certain definitions and context and things like that. And also, I just met with all of our first-year students over the course of a few days last week and really talked about what do healthy relationships look like, what does consent look like, ongoing consent, and also, like, if you find yourself causing harm, what can you do? If you're someone who is harmed, what can you do? If you know someone in your community who's being harmed, what can you do? So I have taken a lot of ownership of trying to have more of these conversations and also making sure that our students get those conversations within the first week that they're here. And we're also looking at like how can we continue those conversations so it's not just one time, you're a freshman, that's it, great, see you later. So also providing that continuum of care so that our second year students are having those conversations. Another thing too is I got to speak with all of our fraternity members last night about what's toxic masculinity look like? How can you work to undermine that stereotyping, right, within your organizations by not feeding into them? So those are some of the examples of things that we're working on and trying to just bolster that culture. I honestly think that these conversations need to be happening with like upper leadership, our board of trustees, the folks who really have more capital, more social capital, more financial capital. I personally think that that's something that would go a long way of just really getting specific of what is harm versus policy violation. Why are we treating sexual harm like it's property damage? You know, where it's a very different conversation. So I
Yeah.
think that those are the kinds of things that I would like to see happening, is more buy-in from folks who are like way, way above my pay grade
Yeah.
and can do a little bit more substantive change on our campus. Those are the things that I would like to see happening anyway.